Wait a minute. There were Warcraft games before World of Warcraft? My mind is blown. My whole world has turned upside down. This is Warcraft II, the Dark Saga. This is basically a console version of Warcraft II, Tides of Darkness, which was on the PC, I believe like a year or a couple of years before this game. But it also includes an expansion in the game. So it's like basically Warcraft II, Tides of Darkness with more content. And you would think that would make the game better, but it actually doesn't. This is a much worse version than its PC counterpart for one main reason. It's an RTS. Real-time strategy games need to be on the computer. You need to use a mouse and keyboard. Most importantly, you need to use a mouse for real-time strategy games. All those obsessive compulsive Koreans who participate in Starcraft tournaments, they use a mouse and keyboard. You need that free range of movement to control the characters, especially when you're fighting someone, when you're doing battles. Using a PlayStation controller, using any controller, it's just not the same. Is this game bad? No, by no stretch of the imagination is this game bad. It's a decent game. It's just a real-time strategy game where you have to use a controller, which already automatically takes off like 2 points from the start. One great thing about the game is you get to experience the world of Azeroth before World of Warcraft. You get to see the prototype of what it used to look like before it became just this billion-dollar blockbuster success with $100 million movies made about it. I love looking back at what the Warcraft world looked like in the 90s. It's so much nostalgia for me because I was obsessed with World of Warcraft in college. I love the people who try to argue against World of Warcraft being hands down the greatest MMORPG of all time. You know, Dark Age of Camelot came out before WoW. Plane Shift came before WoW. RuneScape came before World of Warcraft. It's just borrowing from these great games. World of Warcraft is just ripping off Tibia. And for these people, when they grow up on these games, I'm sure what they're saying, they believe it. They're not just being trolls. They believe all these games are better for them. And I'm sure all these games are better for them than World of Warcraft. But that's not the case for 95% of people. For 95% of the people, and I'm pulling statistics completely out of my butt, World of Warcraft was the game that got them into MMORPGs. World of Warcraft is the game that brought our MMORPGs into the real public eye and made it mainstream. World of Warcraft, even though it wasn't the first, it was hands down the most revolutionary MMORPG of all time. I mean, WoW is probably the most successful game of all time. Forget about MMORPGs, just game, period. In this game, you get to play on some of your favorite World of Warcraft maps, which is absolutely awesome. They look pretty much nothing like the maps in World of Warcraft, and I'm talking about the vanilla version. I mean, I haven't played in so many years, so that's all I remember. But it is still really cool to see a rudimentary 32-bit version of World of Warcraft. And by the way, these graphics, they're not that advanced. These graphics could have easily been on the Super Nintendo. Like a lot of the parts of this game, minus the cutscenes, which are just, you know, long CGI cutscenes, so they would just take up too much space on a Super Nintendo cartridge. But minus the cutscenes, the CGI cutscenes, you could fit most of this game, I think, into a 16-bit cartridge easily. And that's, again, because this is basically a game from a few years before, which was released on a new console. Before you start a level, the game gives you like this mission with full voice acting, which is awesome. And then you go on your merry way, completing the mission in that map. And most of the missions boil down to something like killing people, rescuing people, or building up your fort with various buildings and just growing your little city on the map. The combat and the construction of different buildings is pretty rudimentary. This is a good introduction into real-time strategy. It's not as complicated as some of the Starcraft games that are coming out today, so it's a good, I guess, introduction. It's like baby's first real-time strategy game, if you will. I'm really happy about that, at least for myself, because I wasn't looking to get into a game where I could only actually really play it after 2 hours of figuring it out. It took about 20-30 minutes to really figure the game out, and I was set and I was able to play. You can play as the human race or the orc race. They obviously have different troops and different buildings that they build, but ultimately all these buildings and troops do the same thing. They just have a different skin, and maybe the stats are slightly different here and there. It's like, to compare it to World of Warcraft a little bit here, a Horde warrior is going to be a little stronger than an Alliance warrior. Like, you know, an Orc or a Tauren warrior is going to be slightly better than a gnome warrior or a human warrior, just when it comes to pure strength or pure defense, but more or less they're the same character. Just a few stats are a little bit off. A missing chromosome here and there. This is, at the end of the day, a decent RTS, but again, I just wish I could use a mouse and keyboard. The game would be so much better and smoother to control with a mouse and keyboard. Playing a real-time strategy game with a controller just felt like playing a real-time strategy game with one hand tied behind my back. It's a real handicap to do. But honestly, I still had fun. Even though I was gimped by the controller, it was still a fun experience. I definitely recommend this game to people who are fans of World of Warcraft. If you want to see what the World of Warcraft looked like before it became this giant colossus that's given Tolkien a run for his money, I would definitely recommend you check the game out. And look, I know I've never, ever gone off topic in a game review, but I have to, just this once. Where is our Starcraft MMORPG? Where is World of Starcraft? I know World of Warcraft is still releasing expansions, and some of the expansions, like for example, the latest expansion, which I believe came out last year, it got critical praise, but it's still World of Warcraft. It's still the same game. Imagine how many new players will sign up to a World of Starcraft or a World of Warcraft 2 MMORPG. Imagine how many old World of Warcraft players like myself will sign up for something like that versus a new expansion, which is, even if it's great, it's still an expansion of the same game. Where is it? I want a new MMORPG from Blizzard. And you know Blizzard knows how to make MMORPGs. You know if they create it, it's gonna be fantastic. I'm just not sure what would be best. Would a World of Warcraft 2 be better than something like a World of Starcraft, or, you know, Starcraft Online, whatever you want to call it? Honestly, my opinion, I think a World of Warcraft 2 wouldn't work. Like, there is World of Warcraft, so making like a second RPG, MMORPG, using the Warcraft world, I don't even know how it would work. Would it be still Azeroth? Like the same like game, just with improved graphics, with like the Crisis engine or something? It just wouldn't make sense. I feel like that wouldn't get as many people excited as a completely new MMORPG. And you already have the franchise for a completely new RPG. Starcraft, World of Starcraft should be the thing you should be working on, not 50 expansions for World of Warcraft. I think a Starcraft MMO in 2019, 2018 would be exactly what the doctor ordered. I mean, MMORPGs are not as big as they used to be. Not as many people are playing World of Warcraft. Not as many people are playing MMORPGs, period. There's not that much buzz anymore. Obviously, you still have millions of people doing it, but it's not even close to what MMORPGs were in the heyday of like vanilla WoW. Like 2005, 2006, that's all people played. No one played anything else. It's like, dude, you want to play Siphon Filter with me? You want to come play Tekken? Tekken? Can I raid in Tekken? Can I gank newbies in Redridge Mountains in Tekken Tag Tournament? I don't think so, pal. Get with the times. So yeah, I would love a new MMORPG from Blizzard. I think it would be fantastic. It would totally get me hooked, just as bad as World of Warcraft. So let's get to it, Blizzard. Let's come out with that video game crack. Let's stop wasting time. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more game reviews. Goodbye, my friends.